everyone. Thank you for joining. Get started in about a minute. Thank you all for tuning in.
Hello, everyone! Thank you all for coming to our Daly City Candidates Forum. This is a non-partisan event where we are providing an opportunity for the community, especially youth, to ask questions to the candidates. We really appreciate the time you took to be with us today. My name is Delina Doe, and I'm here with Eula, and we are part of the Daly City Bay Leaders. And also, we are also students at Westmore High School. We are a group of youth that live in Daly City that come together to talk about community concerns. We believe that youth have the power to make change in our community and that we are not only future leaders, but leaders today. We have partnered with adult allies from the Youth Leadership Institute to help us to get to where we are today. We are also part of the People's Alliance of San Mateo County, which are alliance of communities of different social justice organizations ranging through San Mateo County, connecting to build power across San Mateo to hold city officials accountable. I think it's very important for youth to be involved in opportunities to speak directly with Daly City decision makers. This year has been filled with so many changes for everyone, and it is important for us to be engaged in what is happening around the world. And most importantly, what is happening in our own homes, our own backyards, and our own communities.
So before we get started, I want to share a little bit about our time together, like how it will look like. So we will start off with by hearing a presentation from the Daly City teachers that will help ground ourselves in the moment, and in this event, given the context of our nation and why it's important to vote. So from there, we will hear about a presentation about what you need to know about voting for this election cycle. If this is your first time voting, or if you're 16 years old, this information is very important. Even if it's not the first time you vote, it's always a great reminder to help make you feel confident about voting this year. If not you, then your parents or caretakers, older siblings, or family or friends. So once this presentation is complete, we will have a few minutes for youth to share some great performances. From the performances, we will finally get to the conversation with Daly City candidates. Today we have Jocelyn Manalo and Shaquila Lee present. Unfortunately, there were some scheduling issues with Glenn R. Sylvester and Musa Isa Nijme. They were not able to attend. They will have 5 minutes to talk about their platform and why they are running for city council. And from there, we will open it up for questions. Please use the chat to ask questions and send them over. One of us will be calling your name to read your questions out loud for the candidates. Please limit your questions to 1 or 2 questions. If you would prefer for us to read the question, please feel free to add that in your note that you want us to read the chat. If your question is not answered, we will try and follow up with the candidates and send up a follow-up email. We will also share their contact information so you can reach out to them. We'll close off by asking them how you can get involved in case you want to support them in any of their future efforts. Lastly, we'll close out with other ways to continue to be involved. So, all right. Can I get some reactions to make sure you are all still with me? I know that was a lot of information to go over. So please send up a thumbs up, claps, or turn on your cameras to do the same thing. Okay. So before we get started, let's do a quick poll. If you were able to, please text D Leaders 828 to 2233. It says right up there on the slides to get started. You can see that on the screen as well. Once you send the first text, follow up by sending the letter A if you are a student or the letter B if you're an adult. We want to know who's like exactly in this room. So how many youth and how many adults are joining us today. So to follow up, please text 2233 to D Leaders 828 and text A if you're a student and B if you're an adult. So let's get a temperature check. So from this poll, it was a majority youth. So thank you for participating in that. We'll do another poll again later on. So keep your phone on your person. And again, thank you for showing up. I'll go ahead and move us along to our first presentation, Why Voting Matters. Daly City teachers have been collaborating with youth and YLI and are going to talk about the importance of voting.
Hi, everyone. My name is Keisha David, also Miss David. I teach humanities at Oceana High School, and I'm one of many teachers tonight who will talk to you about why voting matters. And first, I'd like to thank you for already showing up. That already shows that you know and you feel that voting does in fact matter. If I can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So voting matters because it's an act of resistance. It is a means of engaging in electoral politics and legal reform. It is a way for your voice to be heard. I'm sure you've heard that one before. But voting is a right that you have that many have fought for, from suffragettes to civil rights activists. And particularly, voting is a radical act for youth because some people are expecting you not to turn out. It has become a pattern elections after elections that young people are amongst the smallest groups of voters. So some people have already discounted your vote. So to actually turn up and prove them wrong is a radical act of resistance. And you need to change that status quo because the decisions that are made by our elected officials will impact you, whether or not you vote. So you should. Furthermore, many of us know people who, for one reason or another, are unable to vote, whose voices are silenced and their interests are underrepresented. So not only do we owe it to ourselves to vote, but we owe it to the folks that we may know that can't vote to, take that right that we have, take that power that we are afforded and use it. And I say that because so many people's rights to vote this year are being suppressed. And so if you can, you should. And while it's not the only way to resist oppression and injustices, it is definitely one that you have, and it's easy. You show up. So we really want to encourage you to be a voter. And more importantly, by showing up tonight, you're already a step ahead to becoming an informed voter. And some ways that you can contribute, even if you're not eligible to vote yet, is to pre-register to vote. You can also create and complete petitions to influence changes now. So even if you can't, you can still be part of the process. You can research candidates and propositions. You can inform yourselves, even if you can't vote in November. You can still vote in the future. So it's good to practice that now. I'm going to hand it over to another colleague of mine who will talk to you about more reasons why you should vote. So you can go to the next slide.
All right, thanks, Ms. David. I'm Mr. Hambre. I teach college and career at Westmore High School. Ram Pride. I just want to talk a little bit about ethnic studies and why ethnic studies is important. Many of you are already advocating for this kind of curriculum in our schools, and I just wanted to tie it into a quote that one of my mentors, Professor Alison Tintianco Cubales, she was my mentor in a space called PEP, a Pinoy Pinay Educational Partnership. And she told me that if you don't tell your stories, someone else will tell it for you. And ethnic studies is a little bit about that quote, right? It's about sharing our narratives and feeling validated with sharing our narratives. So ethnic studies is centered around, culture, identity, race, class, everything about us. And it's a curriculum centered around that, around telling our narratives within the classroom space. And there has been a lot been going on, right, around this discussion topic, this curriculum. In the summer, I saw a lot of youth become engaged in this kind of curriculum and actually advocated this curriculum to the school board in Jefferson Union High School District. Lawmakers are already passing this kind of curriculum in the college level. Every CSU out there is making ethnic studies a required class when they are in college. All right, and unfortunately, we've come to a standstill when it comes to having ethnic studies in the high school level. Right, some schools are already having some classes, but it's still not as a set required class in high school. So there's still a lot of opposition when it comes to this topic. And I just want to echo what Ms. David said, right? Who we choose as our leaders, our elected officials, will determine whether our stories are validated in our communities. So we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep discussing, and we got to make our voices heard when it comes to sharing our stories. And that's what I want to encourage. When you're thinking about voting and raising your voices, right? Raising your voices with meaning, trying to get agendas in the ballot so that we can get our voices heard and we can get our narratives shared. Okay, and then I'll pass it off to Mr. Kubi, who will talk a little bit more.
Hi, my name is Adam Kubi. I teach government and economics, civics and economics at Jefferson High School in Daly City. To piggyback off of what Ms. David said, I'm showing you some graphs here about youth voting. And the first graph on the left there shows that the amount of youth and millennials these days is going up of considerably amount to the point where they're the biggest voting bloc that is in the United States. But yet, as you see on the graph on the right, millennials still trail the other three groups of individuals in our country in the amount of percentage that they do vote. and that's troubling to see that they could have that much power. There's that much power with the amount of people, yet they're not exerting that power. In 2018, during the midterm elections, you did see amount of voter turnout of youth, and specifically certain areas across the country. And when youth voted, they were able to get their elected officials that they had supported into office. If you can go to the next slide. Oh, I think there was missing a slide there. So I was going to show another slide, but I'm not sure if my slides got cut out. But there was another slide that kind of showed a proposition or youth registration. And actually, youth registration in the state of California is up 24% for this election. In 2020, 24% more youth ages 18 to 24 are registering to vote in California than in the previous 2016 election and presidential election. And that's great to see that more youth are registering to vote. However, will that equal more voter turnout? We're not sure. And we hope that, as Ms. Davis said here, that youth will take that act and go not only register, but actually vote. The next slide, you can go to the next slide. There's Prop 18. One of the ways to get young people to vote in the state of California is to pass a proposition that will allow 17-year-olds who will be eligible to vote in the November election for a presidential year to vote. So in the primaries or even in any other election. So increasing youth voter turnout by giving them this opportunity at 17 to vote, what they can vote in the general election at 18 will help that. But there's also other ballot measures, not this time, to get 16-year-olds to vote. But we hope that youth will get involved in the process and feel like that voting is an act that they can do to make a change in their community. And we hope that hopefully people will support this amendment to get young people the opportunity to vote. I'm going to turn it over to my next colleague. You can go to the next slide.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Ms. Z, or my full name Asra Zialman. I also teach at Jeff, and I teach right now AP World History and U.S. History. So in trying to come up with this sort of short presentation for all of you, we chose only 2 propositions. There's actually many propositions that are very interesting on the 2020 ballot. And so in order to keep this short and not keep talking at you, we chose these 2 because we felt the Prop 18 one we mentioned, there's definitely some changes around youth voting that are going on. That's a conversation happening. This one also is with schools and is something that we feel is also very relevant to you. So we picked the 2 that probably relate to young people the most who are attending public schools. So there's many more, and just know that that's also a perk of voting, that not only do you get to vote for offices of people, but all these propositions where, again, they're incrementally working towards change for certain items. And for this one specifically, Prop 15, Schools and Community First, you may have noticed it around. This is a proposition that's been talked about for quite some time. And so you notice in the map, there's different counties. We're in San Mateo. So if this proposition is passed, it's pretty exciting. We would be able to get, as the statistic says, $587 million for education, which I think can make a huge difference. It can be used for supplies, it can be used for sports, it can be used for a lot of things that I think our schools really need, instead of teachers having to fundraise. And many of you know I do that. So so there's just another message from us to you all, that there's so many things being considered when you vote. It's very important to do so that you actually also are part of choosing what sort of changes are implemented, such as this one potentially. So, all right, thank you. I will go ahead and pass on to our last teacher who's going to speak today. So, Mr. Perez.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mr. Perez. Nice to see all of you, and especially some of my old students and current students that are in the room right now. So myself and some of the other teachers in this meeting are starting a new club called the Social Justice Coalition, and it's going to have chapters at Jefferson High School and Westmore High School. If you want, you could take a picture of that link right there, the Linktree link, and I'm also going to post it in the chat right after I finish speaking. So if you want to join, you can sign up there. And what we want to do with this club is provide a space where students can really get engaged with either the community or larger issues that affect the whole nation, or even just the state, or even just citywide things. We noticed that there's a lot of students, I think, who have individual voices, and we wanted to figure out a way to kind of bring those voices together, not even just at a school, but also across the district. And I know that I put here that we're going to have chapters at Jefferson and Westmore. There's also a Stay Woke Club at Oceana if you go there. So why should you sign up if you want to stand up against injustice, if you want to stand up against oppression, you want to meet like-minded people, not only at your school, but across the district, if you want to see change in your community and even change in yourself. We might do things like, whether it be campaigns to raise awareness or actually make change or write letters. There's a lot of opportunities here. Because the club is brand new, if you want to join, you can be a part of really making the club what it will be, hopefully for many years in the future. And so you could be a part of that. I know at Westmore, at least, we're planning on having our first check-in meeting sometime next week. So if you want to sign up, you can make it to that meeting. And that's basically all I have to say. I think it'll be a great opportunity for you to really get some of your ideas out there and put it to action. Yeah. And thank you all for allowing us to speak for a few moments here. I think that's all we got, right?
Cool. Thank you. And Delina, we'll turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you for sharing that information with us. Again, it's really and super important for us to be grounded in the context of what's going on with the world, with the different propositions and so on. But moving on, I'd like to invite Lalo from YLI to share more information about ways to feel more confident with this election cycle.
Cool. Thanks, Alina. Cool. So now we're going to do a quick 101 of knowing your voting rights in San Mateo County. And just want to do a shout out to the Asian American Advancing Justice Asian Law Caucus for putting together all this information and made it really digestible. This information is also available in many different languages, and we'll send over the link of where you can access all of this information. But just a quick overview about the timeline. Ballots are mailed to all registered voters starting October 5th. Monday, October 19th is the last day to register to receive your ballot. And October 31st, 2020 is when all in-person vote centers are starting to open. And here is a phone number for San Mateo County elections, which is 650-312-5222. So as you're getting ready to vote, you must first be registered to vote, and you can register to vote if you are a US citizen and a resident of California and will be 18 years or older on election day, not currently in prison or on parole for the conviction of a felony, and not found by court to be quote unquote mentally incompetent. If you are already registered, you can check your status of your registration on this website, voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. And you'll just be asked to confirm your mailing address. You can add or update an email address to get timely information from your county elections office, and indicate your preferred language to get translated materials if they are available in your area. If you do want to register through Monday, October 19th, you can do it online on this website, registertovote.ca.gov. You can also do it at the DMV, the post office, the library, or your county elections office. Or you can also call the county elections office at this number, 888-762-8683, to request a voter registration form, which must be mailed in by October 19, and there's no stamp needed. So what if you missed a voter registration deadline? That's not a problem. You have two options to get registered. The first one is that you can go to the county elections office or any vote center in your county to use same-day voter registration to register and vote. Then you'll get a voter registration form and ballot to complete on the spot. The second option is if you are not registered to vote and cannot go to the elections office or a vote center, you can contact the county elections office to ask how you can register and vote remotely by using remote accessible vote by mail. So voting from home, if you register by October 19th, you will automatically receive a ballot in the mail with instructions on how to fill out and return it. You send your ballot by mail, and again, no stamp is needed. Remember to sign and date your ballot envelope, and also try to make sure to make your signature as similar to your driver's license or California ID as they use that to verify signatures in the ballots. And make sure that your ballot is postmarked on or before November 3rd, which is election day. You can also drop it off at one of many official ballot drop boxes located throughout the county or at a vote center, and no stamp is needed as well. There are 24-hour secure ballot drop boxes that will be open starting October 5th through November 3rd, and they will close at 8 p.m. on November 3rd. If you or any family member needs language assistance for voting from home, before election day, you can get translated materials in the mail. To receive translated materials, make sure to update your language preference at that website or give the elections office a call. You can also reach them by email at the email listed there below. And we can also send all this information, because I know there's a lot of information to review, but just want to make sure that you're hearing it here as well. So more about language assistance. If you prefer to vote in Spanish or Chinese, the translated version of all election materials are available by mail before election day. And this includes your ballot and the state and local voter information guides, which contain helpful information about candidates and ballot measures. If you prefer to vote in other languages like Burmese, Hindi, Japanese, Korean, or Tagalog, you can ask to receive a translated facsimile ballot in the mail. And this is a translated example ballot that will help you understand and fill your English ballot. You cannot send this ballot in, but it's a kind of like a reference to help you check once you have your actual ballot. So again, you can't use the facsimile ballot to send in, it's just used as a reference. And also, if you go in person, there will be bilingual poll workers at your vote center, and they should be wearing a badge, ribbon, or sticker saying which language that they speak. So voting in person, most vote centers will open starting Saturday, October 31st, and will be open through November 3rd. Early voting and same-day registration are available at county elections office and at vote centers. You can look at your polling place at that website. And early vote centers in San Mateo County are going to be in the San Mateo elections office, the Redwood City County Clerk office, and the South San Francisco Main Library that are going to start to be open on October 5th. And you can find more about the addresses and the hours in the website there. So on election day, vote centers will be open starting at 7 a.m. and closing at 8 p.m. And as long as you are in line by 8 p.m., you'll be able to cast your vote if you are dropping off your ballot. You can walk into any vote center and give them your name and address to receive a ballot. If you prefer voting in a non-English language, ask if they have any materials in that language and if any of the vote center workers speak that language. You are allowed to bring up to 2 people to help you vote, as long as those people do not represent your employer or your union. So some frequently asked questions that have been received is, who should I call if I have issues about voting? Here are some information, the numbers you can contact for information. And will there be public health protections? Yes, vote center staff will be wearing masks and follow public health guidelines. And we ask you to also do the same. They will set up vote centers that allow for physical distancing as well. And voters must comply with state and local public health requirements, including wearing a face covering and maintaining physical distance. Do I need to show my ID when voting? In most cases, no. You shouldn't if you used your driver's license number, state ID number, or social security number when you register to vote. So you should not be asked for your ID when voting. Maybe if it's your first time, you will be asked. And again, you can bring someone, in California, you can bring up to 2 people to help you vote. So feel free to bring a family member or a friend to make you feel more comfortable about voting in person. And lastly, if you run into problems while voting, here are the numbers that you can call. There are a lot of resources for you in English, in different languages. So in Mandarin, Cantonese, Vietnamese, Korean, Bengali, Urdu, Hindi, or Tagalog, you can call 888-274-8683 for assistance. And for bilingual English-Spanish translation, you can call 888-839-8682. And yeah, that covers a quick overview about what you need to know about voting for this election cycle. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Again, if you would like more information, check out the links in the chat. Lalo, can you go ahead and send those in the chat? Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, thank you. All right, now I'll go ahead and move us along to Rod, who will introduce our performers for today.
Thank you, Eula, for that. That was a lot of information. So please just make sure you register to vote. You take all those necessary steps and follow those links that were shared. So first up, we have Bea. She's a student from Jefferson High School who will be doing a live performance of a speech that she performed for her AP Government class. So if you guys don't mind, let's give some snaps, some things in the chat, some hooray, some reactions going to just give her a warm welcome, and we'll bring her in to go ahead and introduce her piece and have her do it for us, all right? And then I'm going to make sure I spotlight her video so she gets all the credit.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bea, and I'd like to thank YLI for having me speak. Thank you very much. So this speech I'm going to read, I wrote about Diversify Our Narrative, which is a student-led organization, and we are fighting for racial justice by starting at our schools and getting not only anti-racist texts, but also books by people of color in our curriculum. Thousands of students nationwide are fighting for this, and it's definitely important as we are in the process of voting for change and making change for the better. So I'd like to use this time to speak about it and get support to make that positive change for our youth in Daly City. Thank you. So if someone were to tell my life story for the whole world to listen from and to learn from and get inspired by, I wouldn't want it to be through the perspective of, say, a cousin who didn't like me as we grew up. She'd take my story, make herself sound like the better person, and she'd probably have people turn on me. Now, does that sound familiar? And if it doesn't, that's exactly what the leaders of America intended. You see, people of color, us, have been negatively characterized by those who tell our stories here. Whether it be how we were brought here, what we did or what we didn't do, what we all have in common is that the Eurocentric perspective we learn our history from is biased and not for our best interest. That is why it's important for us to learn about our heritage from our people. Our history has been suppressed due to systemic racism, and we can start chipping away at that by starting at the foundation of our education. We need to demand books that represent us. We need to demand 4 books that represent us and teach us the truth of our brilliance, strength, and our beauty. An Indian and Filipina New York Times bestselling author, Roshani Chokshi, said, "It makes you feel like your story doesn't matter when you don't see people who look like you in stories." Now, I'm sure most of us can say that at some point in school, we didn't feel represented by our books, and it's kind of weird because students begin to think to themselves, what am I even capable of? And see, if you don't read and see what your people have accomplished, it prevents you from knowing your potential. If all you read in books is how your past family were slaves or were banned from coming here, which, don't get me wrong, is all important history, but if we aren't also met with books that show us the positive imprint we're making on this country and world, it hinders us. There are so many Black, Asian, and Latino inventors, doctors, musicians, mathematicians, all extremely inspiring, but we don't hear or read about them. That shows us as kids that we aren't smart enough, that we aren't capable, and that we can't live up to our full potential. And that's exactly why we need to have books by people of color required in our classrooms. So our education is very, very, very important, and we as students can push education systems to be even better. Now I want you to think about this quote. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela, the man imprisoned for his views, also helping end racial segregation in his country, later becoming the president of South Africa and a hero to so many around the world, said that quote. He held so much wisdom and knowledge, and he shared it. Education is so powerful, and so are we. So if we feel we aren't learning enough about who we really are, we need to voice it. And to do that, you can sign petitions and reach out to your school board members. Abigail, she's also in this meeting. Abigail and I started a Diversify Our Narrative chapter for our district, and we'd love for you guys to also join us and sign the petitions as well. It's also a great opportunity to get in touch with other organizations and talk about how to work on making our community better. I'll leave you with this. As students and youth, we are the present and the future. So it's up to us to push for these changes to not only benefit us, but those after us. We want our little siblings and cousins growing up and knowing how beautiful and smart they really are. Parents want their kids to be successful. Teachers want their students to flourish. And all of this starts with what we learn and how we learn it. Remember that to know history is to know self. This is exactly where we can start to chip away at the systemic racism that we face in general and stand in solidarity as we learn more about each other. And of course, there will be bumps in the road, but the key is our persistence and unity. This all starts with us, and we are definitely making it work. Thank you. And I'll also put the link to the petition in the chat as well. So make sure you check that out too. Thank you.
OMG. Thank you, Bea. That was an amazing performance. Can we please give some love on the reactions? Oh, y'all already up to it right there. Yes, the reactions and on the emojis. Let's show her all the love right now. Let's show her all the love. Please soak that in, Bea. You deserve it. That was incredible, like hands down. You spoke on so many true things, and you can just tell that was from the heart. So thank you for sharing and inviting us to your world. Moving on, we have another performer / speaker, presenter. His name is Jason. He's another student from Jefferson High as well. He'll be actually sharing a video performance that he did for his AP Government class as well. So if we can just go ahead and give some snaps again, and some snaps and claps for Jason, and then we'll go ahead and just have him unmute himself and introduce his piece as well. So let me get that set up.
Do I start now?
Oh yeah, go right ahead, sir.
My piece is about racism and how because especially with the pandemic, a lot of people are going to be homeless, especially with the rent freezes ending. I think it's important for us to sort of and work together to stop it. You can start the video now. Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm here to talk about homelessness. According to new U.S. Census data, in the following months, about 30 to 40 million people could be evicted from their homes. With rent freezes ending and COVID relief funds not coming anytime soon, this would be the biggest mass eviction in U.S. history. Because of this, I'd like to talk about homelessness, or more accurately, how we vilify and dehumanize the less fortunate. Compared to any other state, California has the highest concentration of homeless people. Because of this, anti-homeless rhetoric is more prevalent here. This hatred of the homeless has even continued onwards into laws and building architecture being explicitly created to disenfranchise them. Laws like no sleeping in public areas after 9, or spikes being put under highways so they don't have a place to sleep. This essentially criminalizes and punishes people for not having enough money to find shelter. Another problem is anti-homelessness propaganda. This is when news sources report on homelessness and find a way to make it seem like they're the problem. For example, many of us have read headlines like homeless man breaks into car or homeless man found sleeping in fast food joint. This is even odder considering how no other headlines include whether or not the perpetrator has a house or not. You never see in the news homeowner commits violent crime or anything like that. The problem with these headlines is that it intentionally makes homeless people seem dangerous and violent. This is simply not true. While many do experience mental health issues and commit crimes, this is because they have nowhere else to go or anything else to do to help their situation. In fact, they are more likely to become victims of hate crime and harassment. A survey conducted in 2017 found 1,769 reported acts of violence committed against homeless individuals from 1999 to 2017. Of those 1,769 violent acts, 476 victims lost their lives as a result. Nelson Mandela once said, "A nation should not be judged based on how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest." If we apply that quote to our nation, we should be ashamed. As more time passes by, we continue to forget and denounce our fellow citizens just because they are a product of an unjust and apathetic society. All I can ask is to be mindful of anti-homelessness propaganda and not to see them as burdens, but rather people who just need some extra help. Thank you.
What? Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much for sharing that video and those kind words, no powerful words. They're not even kind. The facts you are speaking, speak your truth. Thank you so much. Let's give him some more claps, some words of appreciation, send him some love his way. It's really important that we have our youth here sharing, what they see in the community, and I think that's why we're here today as a community to, you feel me, pick their brains and to really understand where they're coming from. So thank you, Jason, tremendously, and Bea, for sharing your gifts and your art with us and your words. But before we get it moving, I want to do one more little temperature check with everybody. And definitely hope that's okay. So please check out your phones one more time if you got it handy, like right there, like boom, you see, boom, pull it out. And then what we're going to do is text one word to that same chat line, that same text thread. Just text one word that describes Daly City for you. So as you see, it says D Leaders 828 to 22333. You have we already did the little first poll, but if you are new, please sign up and do that right there. And then just one word that you see or that describes Daly City for you. We'll give it a few minutes to collect all those responses. We got so many people in here. We want to hear what you all have to say. Okay, we're getting some words in there. Please don't be shy. Let us know how you feel. Yes. Whew. Okay. I see a hashtag. We're getting all type of things. Don't know what to do about that one. Okay, cool. Let's see what we got. I see diverse, definitely. Opportunities. Manila, Filipino, old-fashioned, expensive. Okay. Home, that's definitely important. Foggy, community, brilliance, normal, expanding. Wow, these are some great. Oh, gentrification. It's like also my head's sideways. I'm sure all of our heads are sideways at some point. I'm just trying to read some of these words. This is amazing. This is so amazing. So please keep throwing those in there. But We'll go ahead and move on just slightly, just for time's sakes. But we're gonna keep it moving. We're gonna go ahead and double into our council panel discussion. I'm gonna pass it over to Delina, but please keep those words that you've seen and realize, we're all people are thinking the same. We're all on the same page. So Delina, it's all you.
Hello again. Okay, so again, I'll repeat the steps. Candidates will have 5 minutes to talk about their platform and why they're running for city council. And from there, we will open it up for questions. Please use the chat to ask questions and send them over privately to Lalo. One of us will be calling your name to read your question out loud for the candidates. And then please limit to 1 to 2 questions. If you would prefer for us to read the question, then please note that when you send it via chat. If your question is not answered, we will try to follow up with the candidates and send a follow-up email. We will also share their contact information so you can reach out to them personally. We'll close off by asking them how you can get involved in case you want to support any of them in their efforts. And candidates, please look out for Eula, who will use the chat to communicate how much time you have remaining. When the time is up, you'll hear them say your time is up. Sorry in advance if we cut you off. First, we have Ms. Glenn. Can you share about your platform and why you chose to run for city council?
Oh, okay. Can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much. I was happy that I was able to make it. I had a few other meetings earlier, but I'm glad I'm here, and thank you so much. I like the platform, and it really gave me a basis to understand what are the needs and what the students are looking for, especially our young folks, which has been very, very important to me. I first ran for city council in 2016, and since then I've served as your mayor, currently the mayor at this time in Daly City, twice within a 4-year period. And I'm so ecstatic about that, to get the consensus of my colleagues on council. We all must work together, and it's very crucial and important. We can agree to disagree, but at the same time, when we do agree, it's for the best of our city. I decided to run again because not enough, and there's more work to be done, and I firmly believe in continuity. I know many of the issues that surround us here, especially in 2020, where COVID-19 has really affected us all. I've heard it here in the forum as well, and also the Black Lives Matter movement, to bring about awareness that has been so long overlooked. During my tenure on the council, I advocated during my first term for a youth advisory committee. We need to get more youth involved. And I'm going to be frank. When I was 17 and 18, I did not have a clue. And to see our youth today getting involved, this is exactly what we need. Also, I appointed the first youth on as one of our commissioners, a rising young man who hopes to go into the West Point Academy. And I saw the qualities in him. And sometimes you need that very first step and someone to give you a chance. And he's been doing well. He's our youngest commissioner in Daly City. On the issues of in the high schools, I know growing up, they try to lead you into getting degrees, doctors, nurses, professionals. But I wanted to bring back shops in our schools. Like, there are many students who rather just use their hands. Automobile shop, metal shop, wood shop. So I've been working with the unions to try to get this back into our city. So, and in the schools. So it's very, very important. We have a long road ahead of us, and I feel that we can really make a difference, and especially if I can be reelected to the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. And next, Ms. Jocelyn Manalo, can you please share why you chose to run for your city council and your platform as well?
Thank you. And how many minutes do I have?
You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for first and foremost for having me. It's truly inspirational to hear the voices of young people at this platform. You know, I grew up here in Daly City. I went to Woodrow Wilson Elementary, Ben Franklin, and also Jefferson High School. So this has been my home ever since, and I wanted to give back, and that's why I'm running. I've always wanted to help people. I worked in the nonprofit sector for about 14 years, helping veterans, Filipino World War II veterans. And then I went into helping families and individuals find affordable housing, understand how to get into housing. And so I always had an affinity to help, but understood that in my work in the nonprofit sector, you had to work with, you know, whether it was a supervisor or folks that were legislators. And in that moment, I realized, well, how can I also help the city I was raised in? And that's why I ran, realizing that in these places, decision making happens. You talked about it earlier, that, you know, in the role as city council, we're able to create legislation that affects young people, seniors, and the families that live within Daly City. And so that's why I ran. You know, really the platform I've been really passionate about is affordable housing. You know, my parents came, well, my mom came in 1976, you know, as an immigrant. And, you know, we first started out renting in South of Market in an apartment. And, you know, thankfully they saved enough to buy their own home. But, you know, I think it's having more opportunities for families to purchase their homes and also remain in the community, which is important to me. Also, you know, when I got on board the city council in 2016, there was not a youth advisory committee that was established on May 22nd, 2017. And that was really through, you know, the work that we did on council. And now I'm happy to see that there are representatives from different high schools on that Daly City Youth Advisory Committee. Once I got on, I also appointed a Westmore High School student to the Library and Rec Board. Unfortunately, she didn't continue on, but that was important to me to have, you know, voices of young people at the table. You know, also wanted to share that within the 4 years, there has been also an overhaul to look at our parks and recreation system because of the fact of like what needs to be enhanced, what are the spaces that young people use, and really it's called Play Daily, and it's asking everyone around like, well, what are the parks that you are utilizing? What are the amenities that you see in your communities that you want enhanced? And I think that's also important. Also, I think, you know, in regards to what has transpired with COVID-19, I know many families are hurting, and the city council passed you know, a resolution to use dollars for rental assistance for folks that are in need. So for me, it's really about helping the community I was raised in. You know, I went to San Francisco State, got my Asian American Studies major in the College of Ethnic Studies. And so when all of you talk about earlier, you know, identifying and seeing yourself in books and in leadership roles, it was important for me to have the youth voice. And that's why I'm glad that we have that youth advisory committee now. But also we passed a resolution in the city of Daly City to support ethnic studies. And also, you know, supporting ethnic studies in the elementary school district and high school district. You know, although I'm a city council member, I went to those meetings in support of ethnic studies because I know how integral it is to, you know, the identities of young people to have a reflection of themselves, exactly as you mentioned, in the books, in the curriculum. And I will continue to be an advocate for that. And in other ways, started the Love Not Hate event in Daly City when we started seeing really unfortunate racial acts that occurred just in whether it was the grocery store or just passing by.
Sorry, your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No. I didn't have a timer, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, and now Mr. Shaquille, please share about your platform and why you chose to run for City Council.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, thanks to Youth Leadership Institute for hosting this forum tonight, all the youth and students that were involved, and all the adult allies. My name is Shaquille Ali. I was born in San Francisco. However, I was raised mainly in Daly City, and I've been here most of my life. And I grew up over the shore in the only low to mid-income housing, which is called Midway Village. We just called it the Bayshore Projects when I was growing up there, but you know, we have euphemisms for things like that. So low income to mid-income housing. And my introduction to being a community organizer was our whole community had to organize and advocate for the cleanup of the toxins that the Navy did in the Bayshore area. And then after the Navy, it was PG&E. So as a teenager, I was groomed to go to City Hall and go to Lawson Hall and to advocate for the cleanup and reparations for all the people in the neighborhood. Coming from that background, I knew that education was my key to liberation. So I studied hard and I, became a teacher. I'm a school board member. I'm the president of the Jefferson Elementary School District. So a lot of you students here, I probably gave you your diploma. A lot of you, I may have been a teacher in one of your classes before I ran for school board. And that's what I've committed my whole adult life to, is helping the youth to help themselves and to provide community mentors to walk alongside with the youth and help them with their paths towards success. Currently, I teach high school algebra and English at in South San Francisco at El Camino High School. And I still continue this day to do community work on a grassroots level to help youth learn entrepreneurial skills and to pursue higher education if that's what they choose. So the reason why I ran for city council is because I've been on the school board now for 9 years. And I believe that in San Mateo County and in Daly City that we need to have shorter terms for our elected officials. We need to groom new leadership and encourage young people, especially those that are real community organizers or campus organizers, to also run for elected office. And there's a lot of people that criticize the current elected officials, and they have a lot of ideas. However, they don't step to the plate and actually run for office. So when we're standing around talking about the change that we want to see, then you start looking at yourself and say, well, I need to be part of that change or make that change happen. So after many conversations with progressive people and with youth in Daly City, I made that choice to actually run for council and step aside from the school board and groom someone else to come into the school board. I'm here now to garner your support and to tell you that I'm still with you. I never went anywhere. Daly City is our home. This is love, and I'm a social scientist. My degree was in liberal studies with the emphasis in social science and ethnic studies. So I like to apply my knowledge and my skills right here at home. As far as fighting for ethnic studies, our elementary school district went beyond passing a resolution for curriculum, but we actually established an ethnic studies program. And we're the first school district that's pre-K through 8 in the country that has ethnic studies. So you'll be hearing a lot about that. They're starting the program in the spring. As far as how you can help out the campaign, I don't know if I should go there or not, or use my last 30 seconds to keep talking about the platform, but okay, I'll talk about the platform. So my platform is based on education, business, and safety, and creating a wider safety net to take care of all the Daly City's, all of our residents' basic needs. We need more transparency in our government and a more readable budget that makes sure that we have equitable community development. And thank you for allowing me this time to speak with all of you. I can keep going, but that's 5 minutes.
Thank you for sharing. We will now open it up to all of you guys to ask your questions that you sent to Lalo. For those of you that registered, you sent some questions already. We can start asking the candidates. We received over 60 questions, kind of crazy. Thank you for sending those over. Almost all the questions came directly from the youth. We received questions that cover topics about housing, mental health, social justice, public transportation, youth opportunities, and food access. We'll go ahead and start with some of those questions. In the meantime, please continue to use the chat to send questions directly to Lalo. Okay, so candidates, you have 2 minutes this time to answer the questions that are being asked. Again, please look out for Eula, who will use the chat and unmute to communicate to you how much time you have left remaining. And when time is up, you hear her say your time is up. Sorry in advance if we cut you off. We have also added a timer so you are aware of how much time is left. Lalo, can you share the timer?
Yeah, sorry, we will have the timer just so that when the speakers are speaking, people can see them as they're speaking. So just here for Eula.
Okay.
Look out for Eula when your time is up.
Okie dokie. Okay, so we'll start off with Mr. Glenn Sylvester again. The first question is $1 million question, literally. If you're given $1 million to put towards the city in any way that you want, what would you spend it on?
Very good question. Thank you so much for that question. $1 million, similar to what we did this year. Right now, due to COVID-19, we have an issue with folks being able to stay in their homes. And as a council this year, we appropriated normally about $80,000 a year, but this year we've raised it to $1 million based upon consensus of the council. I think that's the most important out right now, and that's to keep folks in their homes. So that's where I would put the 1 million. Thank you.
Can Ms. Jeslyn Manalo answer now?
Yes, thank you so much. If I were to have $1 million right now, I think there would actually be, it would be parsed out in ensuring that we made sure there was food security for the community. I know that that's something that is, we've seen extensive lines in different areas, even with the support of the food banks. So I would want to also focus on food security and of course also on ensuring that people remain in their homes with rental subsidies that can be distributed to the community, Daly City Community Center. Lastly is also just being able to see if there's ways to support, like what are the needs of the young people and seniors now that there is a different scenario that we're all faced with, right? With COVID-19, like how can we enhance both the youth and senior services because we're in a different state right now. So those would be the areas in which I would put that $1 million.
And Jolie, step up now to answer the question.
Okay, thank you. Yes, if we had a surplus and an extra $1 million, I would definitely advocate for us to build a youth center, entrepreneurial center, and business development center, and then also put money towards food security, as Ms. Manalo said. That's actually something that I'm working on right now, but I won't reveal all the details about that. But my neighborhood where I grew up, Bayshore, was declared a food desert and has been allowed to stay a food desert. So I would address that immediately. And then finally, I would have COVID relief funds for people who are behind on their rent, and then also to help people stay in their homes. And if we had any money left over, to build more affordable housing.
Okay, thank you. So next question, can Jocelyn start us out? If elected, how do you plan to involve Daly City residents in the decision-making process?
Thank you. You know, I think it's so important to have everyone's input, and you know, city council meetings are open to the public, and there's public comment arenas. But I think we need to hear from the residents, whether it's young people or seniors or families, and you know, that's important to me. As a policymaker, it's really important to hear from the community firsthand. As I mentioned to you, you know, I worked in the nonprofit sector for many years, and I got to hear firsthand from the needs of those residents I worked with. And so in that same fashion, you know, I like to hear from, you know, the residents, young people, around ideas and also their input on the ground, because we'll only create more receptive and better policy by hearing firsthand from our residents. So, you know, I think that's it's an open door for me, and it always has been. When I share to people, they can reach out, they can call me, you know, they can email me, and I'm always open to hear from the residents and community members.
Can Glenn please answer? Okay, I mean, Mr. Shaquille, sorry. I'm so sorry. My apologies. I mean, Shaquille Ali, answer.
No worries. Thank you. Yes, definitely. I have an open door policy. As in, I don't call myself an elected official, but I'm a public servant. The only reason why I'm even in office is to do the will of the people and to have the best interests of our students in our district. So I have an open door policy when it comes to phone, emails, and then I would also advocate for more town halls, especially when we're dealing with issues that may be contentious or that we need a lot of input from the community. I would have more special meetings called on council, and I would have also regular office hours, as I do now as a board president, where I'm open to hear from union leaders, from workers, from whoever has an issue, or even ideas of things we can do better. And on top of that, I would have advisory boards, appoint commissioners, and definitely have an internship program where young people can become civically engaged and also give their input into policies that the city needs to enact.
Delina, you're muted. Shall I go? All right, thank you so much. That is a very good question. And first and foremost, I'd like everyone to know I have a mantra that I truly believe in, and that is a confused mind will always say no. And why would folks say no? Because they lack all the information. And that's how I make my decisions when I'm on council. I must have all the information available to me, and therefore I can make an informed decision. Now, the youth is very important to me because I'm a senior right now, and you folks will be making those decisions later. And in order for you to make the correct decisions, you need full and complete transparency and the information. And that has changed within the last 4 years. Matter of fact, some of the information that comes before council is a direct result of what we have heard from the community. As council members, we hear information from our constituents, and we will move that information forward and say, well, what about that? What about that? And that's what brings that information to council. I can give you one example, parking situation. Well, not one all size. So we have created areas within our community where we go to each community and say, tell us about your parking issue, and let us all collaborate together to come up with a solution. So full and complete transparency. If you haven't done anything wrong or haven't kept anything from the community, then you can feel good about yourself. And we do on council. Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on, can Shaquille start us off first? How will you tackle decreasing juvie inmates or the prison pipeline in our community?
Well, we need to stop the, schools to prison pipeline by having a better school system. So that's number one. And, California leads the world in incarceration. So we need to change that narrative and give students the support and the services that they need while they're still, you said juvenile, right? So while they're still teenagers and while they're still children, before they get to the point where they're in a place where as an adult, they're in prison. So we would have to, enhance the services from the city council perspective or the city perspective. We would have to enhance and go alongside with the core curriculum and the services that are provided in the schools and be of assistance. So an example of that would be coordinating better with the county for extra services like mental health services and other types of counseling. Then also having more opportunities for the youth in the first place. So more recreation programs, having the library stay open for longer hours, entrepreneurship programs, like I said before, business development, and helping some youth, as which actually was stated before, go into some of the buildings and trades as well, and apprenticeship programs, and be able to use their skills to make a living and to be able to go out there and have a family and be productive citizens in Daly City.
Thank you for sharing. Mr. Glenn Sylvester going up next.
Thank you so much. Can you repeat the question? You said about pipeline?
Oh yeah. How will you tackle decreasing juvie inmates or the prison pipeline in our community?
Okay, the prison pipeline. I watch a few YouTube videos on Denzel Washington, and I would like everybody, when they get a chance, just look for the motivational videos. And in one of those videos, he talks about juveniles and crimes. And he brings up some very good points. He brought up a term called yummies. I'm a firm believer that, first of all, the first line of defense is at home. The second line of defense is in our schools. Our teachers and staff have the most difficult times in working with the students, and we depend on them. So it is imperative to me that they have all the tools they need so that they can educate our youth for the future. I'm a firm believer in prior law enforcement experience that I do have. That have something like a mock court, whereas if there is an issue, you get students of your peers and have a mock court and let them decide. What do you think? Do you think that was wrong as to what they did? I think they need to get more involved, and we don't have that now. What's very important is peers. Judgment by your own peers, not by adults always telling students, this is what you need to do this, do that. Well, I want to hear from my fellow peers and see what they have to say. I think we can go a long way with that, and I would like to move forward with such a program. Thank you.
And can Ms. Jeslin go?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we need to obliterate the juvenile system. I think that's what we need to do. I think that needs to be omitted, first and foremost. And and we need to stop penalizing young people in that regard and in that fashion. That's my perspective. And also, number two, I think it's important for us to really invest more in youth programs that really promote and really provide leadership skills, and also increase library services for young people and youth. And I know that, we have to also look at ways to improve and enhance our after school programs. I think, many times, I know growing up, my parents had to work, 2 jobs and things like that. And having, a support system after school, I think is really important. Whether it's around leadership programs, or it's also looking at the connection of like STEM programs. I mean, we are in kind of the area where technology arises. And so maybe there will be arenas in which young people are able to find, their passions, right, in that regard. And job training programs. I think that, when young people are penalized and then they have to go to juvenile hall, I don't think I'm opposed to that. And I really think that it's about prevention and really providing the resources for young people through education and programs.
And now we're going back to Glenn. Okay. Sylvester, in what ways can the city increase funding to schools and resources for youth/students?
Thank you for so much for that. In order to do that, we need strong collaboration with schools. Daly City right now is in a budget deficit. What that means is they're spending more than what we're bringing in. But that does not preclude the fact that there are resources out there. There are grants, and we have to take advantage of those grants, and we have to work together to find out where those grants are. We have to also think about our staff, our teachers in the schools. On council, we fully backed teacher housing that's going to be built at 699 Cerro Monte. We are in deep support of future housing that's going to be built at MP Brown. Where did this money come from? Not only from schools, but by grants. We need to work together to continue to find these grants and always depend on, say, funds from the city. If there are funds available, yes, I'm all for it. But let that not be the only source. We all must work together to find these grants, and they are out there. Thank you.
Ms. Jesling, can you please go?
Sure. I think we have to look at so many different facets of funding resources, right? And whether it's federal, state, county, it's really around collaboration to ensure that the resources are sent to our young people, our educational system. But also, I think we also have to hold corporations accountable that are making so much money out there. And so that if they have opportunities to really leverage and give back to the educational systems, to youth programs, they should also be held accountable because, we know they make so much money out there, and that they can provide, whether it's their foundation, whether it is, as mentioned, through grant programs. But I think, we have to look at all facets, because you all here are our future, and actually you are the now, right? We always say the youth are our future, but to me, I say that you are the now because your voices are here. I hear your ideas, your voice, your power, right? And so we need to really support your programs, and we'll also be able to support the teachers that provide you the education that is, so important that we all know and are grateful for. That even through these times, our teachers are there for us virtually or even through COVID-19. And so we have to look at all areas of funding.
And then Mr. Shaquille Ali, can you please go?
Yeah, so first of all, we need to understand the way that the schools are funded and the way that housing for our teachers is funded. Our teacher housing at MP Brown was not funded from a grant. It was actually from a bond measure that we authored and took to the voters, and the voters decided that yes, they wanted to support our bond measure, and that's how we're getting money to build workforce housing for teachers and other employees at MP Brown. So I just wanted to correct that. And then also the way the school funding works is in Daly City, we get our funding from property taxes. So the homeowners' property taxes, and then because we don't have enough money, we're underfunded, just like a lot of other districts, then the rest of the money comes from the state through the county. So we need to hold the state legislators accountable, and we also need to hold the county more accountable. Now, we can get some grants from the federal government and from the county. However, those grants have a lot of stipulations attached to them. So the best thing to do is to hold the state legislators accountable, have them push for better funding of the schools. We also need to get rid of the unfunded liability of all these pensioners that we pay more money to people who don't work in our district anymore than we do to our current employees. And this is happening all over the state of California. So there are some people who are pushing to have creative ideas and the creation of more revenue to help us fund our schools. And then lastly, we do need to think about how schools can create their own revenue and also get rid of some of their expenses. So we've already taken some steps in the Jefferson Elementary School District.
Time is up. Sorry.
Okay,
Okay, so a question from someone in this chat. Arella, can you please unmute yourself to ask your question? And we'll be starting off with Miss Jesslyn.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Arella Quirolo. I am a student at Westmore, and my question for you is, what are your honest and direct thoughts on defunding the police and reallocating funds to local community-based organizations and or programs? Thank you.
Thank you, Arella, for that question. You know, I think that it's important to look at ways in which we can promote more support to young people, and see if there is ways within the budget to reallocate them to mental health services, or as we talked about it here. There's a lack of support for youth development programs, and I think that, as mentioned earlier, it's about prevention and about being able to support our young people. And that's something I think, we are most definitely looking at. And we've had a series of meetings at City Hall in regards to Black Lives Matter movement, and also around what has unfortunately transpired when we all saw what happened with George Floyd's death. And, there are no more chokeholds that's banned with DCPD, but and more de-escalation techniques with the police department. But in regards to the reallocation of funds, I think we do need to look at supporting young people in programs, and then also ensuring, mental health support in our community. Thank you.
Then can Mr. Shaquille Ali go next?
Yes. Imagine an unarmed mental health professional showing up to a nonviolent situation. That's an example of, yes, we need to take some of the money that is gobbled up in a big chunk. 40% of the Daly City budget goes to the police. You guys see they built that new wall over there. Not sure what that was about, but a lot of that money could be redirected to open the libraries, bring back more librarians, park and rec. We need to refund the park and rec system. Definitely, we need to empower mental health workers to take the burden off the police. The police keep saying that they're not counselors, and we already know that. So we don't need them to do that job. We need them to be able to do the more high-level detective work and solve these more serious crimes. So I'm definitely in favor of us reimagining what public safety could look like. You know, there's nothing wrong with evening out the resources towards paramedics, nurses, all the people that help us to stay safe.
And then Mr. Glenn Sylvester, can you step up?
Yes, thank you so much. It's no known secret that I have prior police background, and the narrative about defunding the police is not the correct word, defunding the police. Daly City is one of the most safest cities here in California. Our current police force is authorized strength is 111. Right now we have 93. So they are doing so much with so little that they have. There's been an initiative that has come out from San Mateo, to which we wholeheartedly agree, and that's to have mental health professionals that will be a part of all the cities within San Mateo. And who is going to pay for those mental officials? It is our police departments. So it's not a way of defunding the police, but it's a way to allocate funds to get an initiative across. You never know when a situation can go bad. And people are concerned about police officers wearing guns. If they go to lunch, they have a gun on. It's part of the uniform, but you never know when a situation can go bad. And I think we need to work collaboratively and together, and we can come up with ways to solve this problem if there's a problem, but there isn't a problem at this time. But we must do it collaboratively. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for answering. The next question is, they believe that the policy that a garage must be built in order to open a curb should be changed. What change will be made regarding this concern? And then can Mr. Shaquille Illegal first?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. They believe that the policy that a garage must be built in order to open a curb should be changed. What change will be made regarding this concern?
Yeah, so I don't have any authority right now. I'm not on council, so I'm not sure if there will be a change, but that's an example of we need to listen to the community when we're making policies and decisions that, you know, affect the residents. So I would definitely need to have some time with the person who asked this question to get more information about exactly what the issue is. And then, so in a situation like this, I would hear the complaint or the issue and bring it back to my colleagues on the council and bring it to a public meeting so that we could talk about it and everyone could hear our deliberation around it.
Okay, and then Mr. Glenn Sylvester, can you go?
Yes, thank you so much. You know, Daly City is constantly evolving, and as a result, there's new housing being built, and our planning division comes up with protocols and rules as to adequate parking spaces. For instance, in Daly City, if your home is, say, 2,300 square feet, before you can build, you must have at least 4 parking spaces, 2 in the garage, 2 outside. In San Francisco, in comparison, If you build the same home in San Francisco, the requirement is 1/4 of that. That's 0.25%. So if you build a home, you got to have it. You got to build 4 homes to get 1 parking spot. We on council are very, very aware of that, and we try to stick by the code. Then there's also the issue of storage. If you have the garage, who is going to enforce that you put a vehicle in there? We respect property owner rights, and that we can't arbitrarily come into someone's home and say, hey, you're supposed to have a car inside, take all your stuff out of storage. So they have to basically police themselves, but we try to adhere to all code regarding new developments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for answering. And Ms. Jesslyn Manalo, can you go next?
Yeah, thank you. In regards to that question in particular, I think we would have to go back and look at kind of what the code is in particular. But we have had a consultant go over kind of our ADA issues around curbs that had transpired. I think we had a meeting 2 months ago, ensuring that we are in line and ensuring that there are, or in line and also in moving forward to assess, as far as curbs with access and accessibility. I'm not quite sure what the question transpired from, but that has been something that we have done, and our staff has done in the past 2 months. I think there was a presentation on that. But I would have to have kind of more further details in regards to like what is the need and whatnot. But I think it's important for us to make sure that our streets are safe, number one, around pedestrian safety, around making sure it's accessible to folks that need the access that's ADA accessible, and then also making sure it's safe for children and families that are walking down the street. So I would just need to have more further details, but we have done an exhaustive also plan around pedestrian safety within the city, understanding the corridors that are around schools and families to ensure that there's slower traffic and that there's more safer streets.
Okay, thank you for answering. The next question is, it's a 2-part question, by the way. Measure Q is framed as a first responders bill. Where do you stand on Measure Q, and why should new revenue go to fire and police, which are the top 2 funded departments, which make up 64% of the budget? And Mr. Glenn Sylvester, can you go first?
Thank you so much. Approximately 4 years ago, there was a proposition on the ballot called Measure B, and that was to save our engine 95 for fire. And as a result, that measure did not pass, and we lost that engine, and it just sits at the firehouse. And we need to bring that engine back because we are gambling with safety in the case of fires. It decreases the response time to fires that may come up, and we have been rolling the dice, and we have been lucky. So it's a way to bring back that engine. Measure Q also addresses homelessness. Now, if you drive around Daly City, you don't see that many homeless population out there because we do our best to resolve that problem and give them the resources. As I mentioned earlier, we are in a budget deficit, and Measure Q is to address the increase and the retention of public services, the homelessness, and look at all the fires that are burning now down south and down up north. We also are a firm believer in mutual aid. We have firefighters at both fires fighting. that puts Daly City even more at risk. So Measure Q will definitely go a long way, and none of that money will go to the state. It stays here in Daly City, and I will ensure that those funds are used where they're supposed to be used. Thank you.
And then Jocelyn McNall, can you go next?
Yeah, I'm in full support of Measure Q, and really what has mentioned around bringing back Engine 95. You know, we're the largest city in San Mateo County as far as population, and we've seen even in the past, I would say 2 years, how like wildfires have happened due to global warming, and just even in the Bay Area. And so, God forbid we see more of that happening around our San Bruno Mountain or whatnot. But just even around just safety services, emergency services, we need to get that engine back. You know, they're doing more with less, and it's really around ensuring our communities are safe. You know, our firefighters do a good job, and yeah, it's about being able to save the lives of our community members. A lot of our seniors really rely on the emergency services of our firefighters, and we need that back given the large population that we have. So I'm in support of reinstating Engine 95 back for our community.
And then Mr. Shaquille Ali, can you go next?
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to be perfectly honest because that's the best policy. I've been confused, and I'm even more confused now because when Measure Q was talked about as a possibility and brought to the Daly City people, they were including police in that conversation. At the time, people were going to council and talking about the 40% of the budget going towards the police, and that it was confusing the residents. They didn't understand why the police needed more money along with the fire and other services that are kind of just the byproduct. So I'm more confused now because the question asks, why do the police and fire need all the money, which would make it they already take up 64% of the budget. So which was already stated, I actually support bringing back Engine 95 as well, but I support enhancing the other services that have now been mentioned as part of Measure Q. And I would like to just say that I'm confused. So I don't know where I stand on it because I need more information. We need more transparency. There weren't enough details to say how the money would be spent. And then the other thing was that the survey that was put out to get people's input about whether we should go for a measure in the first place, only hundreds of people responded to the survey, and they're using that to speak for 100,000 people. So I think we need to look at the way that these measures are worded and have more details and more transparency so that the voters know what they're actually voting for.
Okay, thank you for answering. I am so sorry if I butcher your name, but can Amber Warnke please step up and unmute to ask your question? I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong.
Yeah, you said my name right. So my question, I had basically two questions, but I think they're kind of similar. So they are, what are you going to do to make Daly City be more independent and self-sufficient? And what are you going to do to protect small businesses?
Who's
sorry, I'm so sorry. Can Miss Jesselyn go first?
Sure, no problem. Yes, so as far as having more autonomy as a city, it's really hard. We're a bedroom community and we don't have a lot of commercial areas, but I think, you know, we are looking at finding creative ways to build more revenue for our city because as we know, when you build the revenue for the city, that goes to programs like we talked about around library and youth recreation programs on in that regard. And so we have looked at areas in which there has been commercial development and on Junipero Serra in looking at ways to build that revenue. It's so important. And when we do build like housing, you know, we also look at ways to build mixed use development. So there's an economic development factor there, meaning a small business can be within that development. Like for instance, the development right by Cerebral or where it used to be Cerebral. So those are townhomes, but there'll be opportunities for small businesses on the ground floor in one area. And then also a community center. There's actually going to be like a community room there that can be utilized and rented out by families or individuals. And it'll be a new facility to rent out for the community. And so these are like creative ways. So also around small business support, I know it's so important. We actually created a small business commission to support small businesses within our community and that they have an avenue to voice their concerns and be able to implement kind of more community grown social.
Time is up. Sorry.
It's okay. Economic aspects to support our local businesses, which are the backbone for our community.
And then can Shaquille, will you go next?
Yeah, so the question was about protecting small business and increasing what can you state it again, please? The question?
My question was, how are you going to make Daly City more independent and self-sufficient, and how will you protect small businesses?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I definitely support more local control. So the first thing we need to do is bring back the outsourced 911 calls that has been outsourced and bring back Engine 95. So that's the first step, having more local control of our services. And then the second step would be to have more entrepreneurship programs, apprenticeships, loan programs for small businesses, awards, competitions, you know, like a Shark Tank type of thing that the city could fund, more grants for people that want to start businesses. Small businesses are the majority of businesses in this country. So we're not, you know, it's not rocket science. We need to support all the people in the community that want to start their own business and be self-sufficient. And yeah, so that's pretty much it.
And then Glenn Sylvester, can you step up?
Yes, thank you so much. I'd just like everyone to know that Daly City is the largest city in all of San Mateo County out of 21 cities. And being the largest cities, folks look at what Daly City does. Now, Daly City has never, ever asked anyone else for any sort of economic relief. The only type of economic relief we have asked for is when we went to save Seton Hospital, which is our largest employer in Daly City. Not only the largest employer, but for the best for our community because they take in everyone. Small Business Association Commission, we have created in Daly City, and I have to give kudos to Jocelyn Manalo because she really pushed this because we've heard complaints from the small businesses. Why is it so hard to get permits? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do that? Well, a small business commission will address those issues and bring that matter before council. We depend on small businesses because that is our bread and butter in Daly City, and we do everything we can to continue supporting small businesses. You have gentrification going on, new developments going on. Okay, well, fine. You're going to build a new house? How about putting retail on the bottom so we can open up more businesses in Daly City? And in the Bayshore, where they don't have businesses, we have a plan coming for the Bayshore because folks in the Bayshore have been feeling left out. So believe me, we know the issues about small businesses, and they are one of our top priorities for Daly City.
The time, yeah.
Okay, the next question is, there are families who are struggling with rent now and before the pandemic. How will you work to decrease the rent and help families who are in need? And then can Jaquil go?
Yes, I'm a firm supporter of inclusive housing. So not just, the price of housing, but access, like where the housing is built. Are people able to get to the services that they need? Do they have a grocery store close by? Do they have buses that go to their neighborhoods and their streets? So there's so many other things to look at, but the first thing is that we need rent stabilization in Daly City. It makes no sense that if you live in Westlake Apartments that your rent goes up $200 every year, but your salary doesn't go up $200 every year. So I know personally many people have been evicted and had to move or been gentrified out because of no rent stabilization. And we also need to build more affordable housing and just prioritize keeping our people here. If you work and live closer to your home, you can have a higher quality of life. I mean, if you work closer to your home. So we want all our Daly City residents to be able to start businesses here and to raise their families here and have a successful life and not be able, not have to move to another city to feel successful.
And then Mr. Glenn Sylvester.
Thank you. Again, I want to reiterate that Daly City Council approved an additional $1 million for rental assistance for those that need it. You submit an application, it's looked at, and they can get up to, I think it's 3 to 4 months of rental assistance. We are doing the best that we can. We have also a firm believer in affordable housing. With the county of San Mateo, we got 550 affordable housing units coming in the Midway Village. We also have slated 330 condos coming at Serramonte. Every time we see a development coming up, we tell the developers, give us 20% of those units to be affordable housing. So 20% of 330 is 66 units. That's going to be for affordable housing. The hub at Sarah Bowl used to be 175 units. We told them we want 34 units of affordable housing. So we see the need, and we are a strong proponent for more housing, and more housing. But we must be careful, because if we put too much housing, then we have parking issues. And there are other constituents who are upset you're building too much affordable housing. But that has always been my top priority, is affordable housing and public safety. And it will continue to be that. Thank you.
Jocelyn Manalo.
Thank you so much. I think, it was stated earlier how we've supported renters in providing the $1 million rental assistance to the community, and also was able to ensure that we passed an ordinance that really stopped, prior to the state legislation, we ensured and passed the tenant protection around raising the rent or boosting the rents for the community. I think it's so important for us to also look at ways. There's building more affordable housing, which is so important. As mentioned, there's going to be over 500 units in the Bayshore, and then also, supporting the workforce housing for teachers. And then whenever a private developer builds within our community, we have mentioned like, well, what is your program? We want to make sure that you have affordable units on site that you're building as well, whether it is rental and ownership, and looking at ways that there will be upward mobility for our community members to purchase their own homes, and through the below market rate ownership program. Also, one thing that we're able to do is work with nonprofits to purchase apartments within an area, because we know those rents are not elevated. And then when it's purchased by a nonprofit developer, then we're stabilizing those units, and it's not going to ever go to market. And we know that they're mission driven nonprofit for housing, and they won't escalate the rents. So it's really a comprehensive approach to really ensuring that we have more affordable housing. We're stabilizing folks in our community.
Time's up. Sorry.
It's okay. A lot to talk about in that respect. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is from Renz. Can you please unmute?
Hello, good evening. My name is Ren Spunningbuthan, and I was wondering what are the candidates' views on substance/drug abuse in Daly City, and how detrimental is the issue to the community? How do you plan on addressing the matter?
Glenn Sylvester, go first.
Thank you so much. This is on drug abuse. Well, I'm going to be quite frank with you. I haven't seen much in the area of drug abuse. I did know about the issue about opiates and its high propensity and more folks getting involved in that. I'm a firm believer in the DARE program, where the police department goes out and does meetings as to dare not to use drugs. That program, if anything, needs to be increased based upon the community needs and the areas. We can get this done through youth programs and bringing this matter before council. Let us know where the issue is. And believe me, if we can get our youth to stay away from drugs now, it will make for a much better community. On another side, I'm concerned about suicidal tendencies. Our youth have to go through so much, and we need to do more of an outreach for them if such exists. And there's also LGBTQ youths. They need to be recognized and as well say it's okay. So please, there are so many youth issues. That is why we have the Youth Advisory Commission. We need to know. Thank you.
And then Jesselyn Manalo.
Thank you so much. I think that it's important for us to ensure that we have mental health services for our community, and there needs to be more of it. We really do. Because what stems from substance abuse is really through, mental health issues around, if it's depression or whatnot. And so, working with I'm glad that there's the Filipino Mental Health Initiative that is looking at ways to support young people in creating more of the skill set to cope and be able to have healthy, responses and, to life circumstances by building, a space and safe space for young people earlier on that has the capacity with therapists and mental health specialists that cater earlier on, so that we don't get to what you mentioned, Renz, around substance abuse. So around that prevention. And I think, it's really amazing that they're building the center around supporting young people and mental health support, and really just creating a healthy environment that's safe for young people, and in regards to that, also a social enterprise. So I think it's an innovative idea that I wish was there when I was growing up, and excited to continue to work to see that initiative unfold for young people in our community, and not only for Filipino youth, but for all youth of color, to be able to have access to mental health support systems.
Thank you, and Shaquille Ali.
All right, thank you. And thanks for that question. The issue to me is in three phases. You have prevention, then you need to move to awareness and prevention. So in that respect, we have to attack and to address the conditions that even cause a person to go and use a substance and then eventually abuse it. So I definitely know that we need to support groups like Asian American Recovery Services. This group tonight, YLI, we need to put more support into the Youth Health Center, peer education programs. We need to do, have the youth be able to get paid to create public service announcements and then go out and do assemblies at the schools and the rec centers, and then have follow-up workshops in the classrooms. And this should be all done in conjunction with the wellness centers in the schools, the counselors and the teachers that are already doing this work on an everyday basis. So I'm excited to hear this question come from one of the youth, and I can't wait to get in and help you with this. This is actually my my element, which is positive behavior, intervention and supports, and social emotional learning. We can't expect young people to achieve in their academics if they don't have, they don't feel secure in their social development. So to me, when you get to the point of abuse, that means somewhere along the way we didn't address you on that continuum of prevention first, then awareness, and now we're at the point where we need to intervene. So kudos to all those people who are out there doing that that tough work.
Okay, so I just want to thank you all for coming today. We appreciate the time you took to ask questions and get to know more about the candidates. Please feel free to contact them and to ask them any follow-up questions, or if you would like to get involved with their campaigning. You can find that on the Daly City website. We want to share a couple more events/resources as you're engaging in voting and also taking care of yourself during shelter in place. First of all, we would like to invite you to our ballot party event. Tentative date is October 29. This will be a chance to hear more about each ballot measure and help you feel more confident about voting. This is a non-partisan event. We will cover pros and cons of each measure in the ballot. We also have commitment cards that are going out to youth, where you sign up and commit to learning more about voting and finding ways to use their voices to better their community. It also allows us to share more events like this with you all to get firsthand experience with voting in Daly City. You can sign up at the links in the chat. Secondly, we know mental health resources are important now more than ever. With that being said, we would like to let you know that if you live, work, or go to school in San Mateo County, you have access to Headspace. Sign up to access meditations, sleep sounds, and movement exercises designed to help you care for your mind. The website is headspace.com/San Mateo County. Also, it will also be in the chat. So that is all. Please take care of yourselves and enjoy your evening. Have a good night. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.